Hello, my name's Costa, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Chroma Key, blue screening, and green screening. What are they? Are there any differences? And best of all, how can you easily transfer your pictures that you've done with those techniques onto your computer? But the absolute best part about this is how can you do that for free? Yes, for free. Now we all like things that are free. So I'm going to show you a technique on how to chroma key out your pictures for free. So let's do this. Okay, so in this tutorial, we're going to learn the following concepts or ideas. We're going to learn what is green screen, what is blue screen, and what is chroma key. You will hear these words sometimes interchangeably used, but you'll find that they're basically the same thing. So let's have a look at what these mean. Let's call up Cortana. Hey Cortana. What is chroma key?
Here's what I found.
Okay, it's taking us to Wikipedia, so let's go over there. So, okay, so we have a description of what chroma key is here. Chroma key, or chroma keying, is a visual effect or technique for layering two images or video streams together based on color hues. The technique has been used heavily in many fields to remove background from the subject of a photo or video. Okay, so we've got an example here. So it's when you get two images or videos and you remove a background of one image to put in another background of another image. So here we've got an example of a man standing in front of a green screen, and later on in post editing or production, that green screen will be removed, and then it looks like the White House is added here to give the effect that he was in that building or in the White House. So it's the technique of removing a particular color to add in something else. There's some more examples down here. So this is a blue screen and this is a green screen. So you remove that part of the screen or recording and you add in something else. So they could be in a studio here. They could be in space here, they could be in all sorts of things. But you've got this idea of blue screening or green screening. And what's the difference? When chroma keying first came into use in television production, the blue screen that was then the norm in the movie industry was used out of habit, until other practical considerations caused the television industry to move from blue to green. So what were those practical considerations? Well, it says here, from a technological perspective, it was equally possible to use the blue or green channel. But because blue clothing was an ongoing challenge, the green screen came into common use. Newscasters sometimes forget to chroma key dress code. Newscasters sometimes forget the chroma key dress code. And when the key is applied to clothing of the same color as the background, the person would seem to disappear into the key. Because green clothing is less common than blue, it soon became apparent that it was easier to use a green matte screen than it was to constantly police the clothing choices of on-air talent. So it seems like we've moved from blue screening to green screening because people are less likely to wear green clothing. I mean, what they're supposed to do is, when they're blue screening, is the actors or presenters are not supposed to wear anything blue, but sometimes they forget. And blue clothing is more common to wear than green clothing. So that's why they've moved to green screening as opposed to blue screening. So as you can see, it's very easy. You can easily do this with a red screen, purple screen. It doesn't really matter. They've just picked a color that most people don't wear very often, which is green. What methods do we have for green screening, blue screening, or chroma keying? Well, there are various methods. You could use photo editing software like Darkroom, for example. Now, so when you go onto the website, you will see that this software is ideal for emerging professionals, portraits, wedding photographers, and those shooting small to medium events that are seeking an end-to-end photography business. So it's really there to help you with your photographs and presenting them. For example, you might have a photo booth. For example, here there's a Darkroom photo booth, and there's a professional one. And in this is built-in chroma keying or green screening abilities of the software. In fact, if we go back to our presentation, you'll see here on YouTube, they actually show you, if I go to this guy's video, stop there. Yeah, you'll see that this Darkroom software has got very good capabilities on removing green screen. It really is very, very good. But what is the problem with it? Well, let's go back to the software and let's pick this one. And that's the problem right there. Can you see that? $495 for the basic one. And then the professional one is $1,395. Now, I'm sure you don't want to spend that much money, just to green screen your images. The other option, of course, is to use this specific one, this green screen wizard, which is specifically just for green screening, whereas Darkroom is for all sorts of editing of photographs and presentations of them. But Green Screen Wizard is just for green screening, and it is a very good application. So let's go there. Green screen software for every need. You get a demo there. You can see how to do it. It's another very good piece of software. But here's the problem. $129. Now, you don't want to pay that much money, surely. $249 for the more professional one. But it is a very good piece of software. So why am I showing you these? I'm showing you these so that if you do get into green screening seriously, this is the way to go. Buy these specific packages, because in effect here you can see an example of green screening. Buy these specific packages because they are very, very good. And of course there are other packages to do the same thing. But most of us might have another way of doing it with Photoshop. And I've said this is the hard way of doing it. Now, these applications, Darkroom, Green Screen Wizard, are not free. And neither is Photoshop free. But you might have it on your system anyway, so why not use it? So let's have a look at using Photoshop to green screen. And let's see how we can do that. So I've got a couple of images I can use, and I'll show you why I say this is the hard way. So here I've got a few images that I've created earlier with me and my son with a green screen in the background. And I want to show you why this is what I call the hard way. Now, Photoshop, of course, can do a brilliant job of removing the green screen in the background. That's not the problem. The problem is you have to put in some work. So if you're careful, you will be able to get this perfectly. But we want to do this quickly and for free. And Photoshop is not free, not unless you're using it. You've got it by other means. And of course, it won't be easy. You can do color selection and select out all this. But the problem here is that this green screen is really bad. You notice there are creases, there are dark greens and light greens and in between greens, and there's some grays here. So this is a very bad example of green screening. You really, when you want a green screen or blue screen, make sure that your background has just one hue of green and blue, or as far as possible. So this is a very bad example of it. But there are different ways of removing that green in the background. We could use the quick selection tool. This is not going to be a Photoshop tutorial, but I'm just showing you quickly how you can do it. And because we've got a sort of like a green background, it's quite easy for us to make a quick selection. But here we've gone over our subject, so I'm going to remove this part here. And then I'm going to remove this part here. And I'm going to remove this part here. I actually need to select all of these bits here and remove this part here. So we've made our selection, and a little bit there. Remove that bit there. And I think we need to reselect this bit here. And I think I'm missing a bit of my head. And we need to remove this part here. Oops, too much. A bit more. There you go. So like I said, this is not a Photoshop tutorial, but I'm just showing you that it can be a little bit fiddly, especially if your green screen in the background is not very good like this one. But here we've created a selection. I'm going to go to selection, select and mask to refine that selection. And if we mess about with these bits and pieces here, you can refine your selection so that you can get it almost perfect. You see I'm missing a bit there, so I'm going to go back out, and this bit here I should select out. But again, I'm showing you that this is not an easy process. Not too bad. So I'm going to go to the output and create new layer with layer mask. Do OK. And there you go. I've selected out that green screen. Not bad. 5 minutes work. It would have been a lot easier had my green screen been perfect. I do have some work to do there. And I do have some reflection of green here. So what I can do is I can, let's undo that. Step back. Let's create a hue and saturation mask. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the greens and I'm going to desaturate the greens, and hopefully you should see most of that green gone and most of that green up there gone. And in fact, you do get some yellows with the greens, so I'm going to desaturate that as well. And you notice it's completely gone. So we haven't done a half bad job of that, of removing our subject from the background. And then what we can do is we can take a background that we like, for example, this lovely skyline of New York. I don't want to select that. I'm going to select just these two here. Right, to create that copy, a copy of these two, it's Shift, Control, Alt, and E if you are on a PC. So we've created our images. There's the background. We'll put this on top of the background, and there you are. We are now got a completely different background. If I make a transformation of that, and then there you go. We now have a completely different background, and if I want to clean this up a little bit, I can just bring that in. And of course, I've done this very, very quickly, as you can see, and then you can save your file as a JPEG or a PNG or whatever you want. But that's how you can do it in Photoshop. But we want an even easier way of doing it. we can use an application called Paint. Now, Paint.net is a free application. As we said, you have to pay for Photoshop, but you don't have to pay for Paint.net. Now, I think Paint.net is only a PC application. Now you can go to Paint or Get Paint to download it. So go into this website here, and that's the latest version that they've got, Paint.net 4.0.21. Download that, install it, and then after you've installed it, you will get an application called Paint.net. 2340, start recording. Okay, so once you've installed Paint.net, run it, and it will look like a normal Paint package. Once you've installed Paint.net, run it, and this is what it looks like. It's a fantastic little package, much like Photoshop, but obviously nowhere near as good as Photoshop. But for 80–90% of what you need, it's good enough. It has layer capabilities, and it's much better than Windows Paint, as you can expect. It is a fantastic application, very easy to use, and it's best of all, it's free. So the problem with it at the moment is that when you go to the effects menu, you go to photos, there should be a chroma key in here. You won't have it because you need to add a plugin to get that. So to add the plugin, what we need to do is go somewhere else to download it. And you can go to this area here called softpedia.com, and that will have the plugin for Paint.net. So we'll click on that. And if you come to this site, you'll find the plugin for Paint.net. You download that, and when you get the download, you should get it in a zip format. Unzip it, and when you've done that, you will then need to copy the zip file. Let me just see if I can find it for you on here. So when you've downloaded the zip file, you unzip it, and you'll have one DLL in there. Chroma Key plugin.dll. So copy that file, and you need to go to your C drive. My installations are on D, but yours might be on C. But you need to go to C or D, Program Files, Paint.net, Effects. Click on that, paste that DLL in there, go back to Paint, and if you don't see it in there, it means that you need to shut down Paint again and restart it. And if you go to Effects, Photos, you'll see the Chroma Key plugin has been added, and you can see that little icon there is blue or green. So how does it work? Well, let's go back to our pictures. I can find them. There we are. So if I find that picture that we were using earlier on, drag it in there, open it. And once again, because this picture has this complicated green screen where it's very dark in areas and very light in areas, and you've got some grays here, it's not going to work brilliantly. So, but we can do things to make it easier. But anyway, instead of selecting bits and pieces like we did in Photoshop, what we can do is just go to Effects, Photo, Chroma Key. And straight away, it keys out all the green that it can find. Now, just take a notice of this bit here, my son's collar. That had elements of green in it, and that's why it's taken those bits out. but we can use this to adjust, to see if we can adjust it. But I've always found that these don't really help that much, so I always stick to the default. But as you can see, we've got the checkered board at the background, which means that there's no data there, or it's empty and clear. But you'll notice that we still have some grays here, which we don't want. And in fact, what we can do is if we save this as a PNG, save as. I save it as a PNG. Don't save it as a JPEG, because if you save it as a JPEG, well, I'll show you what will happen. It fills those empty spaces with white. Don't use JPEG. Okay, we'll save it as a JPEG. Okay, and then what you do need to save it as is as a PNG, because PNG has the ability to save the background as clear. Use PNG instead. Save that. So let's go back to our saved images, and here they are. That's a PNG and that's a JPEG. So if I double click on the JPEG, you'll see that it's filled it up with white, and we don't want that. But if you look at the PNG, there's no data in here, but there are bits of green if you see closely, and we want to get rid of that. So let's go back to Paint. So we want to get rid of as much green as we can from here. So what we can do is we can rub this green out. Can you see that? We can rub that out, but that's gonna take us some time, and really at the end of the day it's not any easier than doing it in Photoshop. So you don't really want to do that. You don't want to create more work for yourself. What you do want to do is you want to make sure that your green screen is as good as you can possibly get it. For example, let's see if we can use this one here, which is slightly better. At least the green in here is more of the same tone. So let's see if it does any better with this. Yes, can you see that? It's removed almost everything apart from this little bit here, which I can just delete that, and that's quite easy. You've done a good job on that. So, but we're going to go back to the first image that we had and see if we can improve on that. Let's go back, drag that in there. Let's see if we can get this green a little bit better than this, and I'm pretty sure we can. So what we can do, just in case we make any mistakes, we'll make a duplicate of that layer. As I said, you can use layers in paint.net. We'll turn this one off so we don't get confused. So we're just using the top one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Adjustments, Hue Saturation, and I'm going to boost the saturation. And you'll notice the green becoming even more green, and that's what we want. But of course, we've lost our skin tones, but we will try and recover those later on. So do OK. Go back to your effects, Photo, Chroma Key. Let's look and see if that's any better, and that's miles better than what we had it before. Miles better. So we'll do OK on that, and then what I can do is just delete these bits here. But you can see that's a lot better than what we had originally. Then what we can do, go back to Effects, Hue Saturation, and we'll try and recover our skin tones by bringing the saturation back. And I think that's pretty good. Okay. And I will see if I can create brightness and contrast, make it's a little bit brighter. There we go. Done. But you can see here, sorry, let me just, you can see on his collar, on boy's collar, he has lost that bit of the collar because that was too close to green. This is what I was saying earlier on. You don't want to wear anything that has any green in it because you're just going to make your life a little bit complicated. So, so we've lost that bit. So what I would have to do, I would have to go back to the bottom layer and somehow copy this bit and place it on the top. But again, we're making our work, we're giving ourselves work. So just make sure that when you're green screening, you don't wear anything that's green or close to green. And if you're blue screening, you don't wear anything that's close to blue. So we can then add a background to this, add a new layer. I'm going to take my son and I and put this on top, and there we are. And then we can do all sorts of things with that. We can make that bigger. We can make that bigger or smaller somehow, like that. And there you go. And that's how to chroma key or green screen out your background easily and for free. Just use paint.net and a plugin that goes into paint.net. And you'll find that if you don't do this very often, then that's the best way of doing it. If you do it quite often, then you'll want more capabilities of green screening and blue screening. Then please go back and use the other packages that I was talking about, Darkroom or Green Screen Wizard, but you'll have to pay for those, or use Photoshop. But if you want to easily green screen out your background, or chroma key or blue screen out your background, then use paint.net with the plugin. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.